Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Hansonia Caldwell, and I am delighted to be able to bring the work of the African Diaspora Sacred Music and Musicians Project from California State University, Dominguez Hills, to this wonderful church. One of the things that our project is very involved with is trying to document the musical history of the Black church in Los Angeles. And so we are, among other things, holding forums around the Los Angeles community as a way of learning the history of the musical activities of the churches in our community. And our resident historian is Don Lee White, Dr. Don, I think many of you know him. And our resident videographer is Judith Blakey, okay? And so we were very excited about the fact that you are here at Phillips Temple having your 100th anniversary. It's amazing. 101, 102? 101. Okay. Your 101 anniversary. And so we wanted to be sure to get here and get some of your memories on tape at this time. So I'm going to turn it over to David Bell.
Thank you, Dr. Caldwell.
Very good.
We're happy today here at Phillips Temple to share in this rich heritage, and we here at Phillips Temple are very proud of the accomplishments and the heritage of our church. As Dr. Caldwell first stated, our church is 101 years old, and the founding pastor was Dr. J.W. Reeves.
Thank you, James, and welcome to everybody, and thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. At the age of 14, our church had no musician in San Francisco. My mother offered my services. I started playing for the church at the age of 14. And this was the senior choir. So they had no choice but to accept me because the price was right. Nothing. After we had moved to Los Angeles, I had the privilege of sharing with the late 50s. I came to Phillips Temple. And Bishop Graves now, he was Reverend Graves then, was the pastor. At the time, I was in charge of the chancel choir. We had about 5 choirs here at Phillips at that time. We had 2 services, 8 and 10:45, and it was really like having 2 choirs, because you would have 50 people in the choir at 8, and you'd have the other 50 in the choir at 10:45. And sometimes you would have those that would stay for both services. But my point is, we had a mammoth amount of people in our choirs here at Phillips Temple. I started taking courses at LA City College, in the music department, and that's where I met and established a long-time love and relationship with Don Lee White. He was one of my professors there in the music department.
Now, Mildred, let me correct you now.
Shut up.
We were students together.
You would never know it. You would never know it. As a matter of fact, we didn't know he was a student because he taught just as much as the professor did. An expert with the music on the piano as well as the organ, and he always thrilled us with his playing. But my point is, I got to meet Don Lee White, and it has been a pleasure over the years to be in his company and to share with him. The cathedral choir required my services, and I went to the cathedral choir, and we performed every genre of music: cantatas, anthems, spirituals, oratorios, gospels, anthems, you name it. we did it. I had always said that, not to be boastful, but I would put my choir up against anybody because they were fantastic. A lot of the members that were with me then are still with me now. A lot of them have gone on to glory, but we never fail to remember that they were once a part of us, and we were a part of them. Another part of our music department, we introduced Dwayne Knox. Dwayne Knox, would you come and share?
Okay, let's see. Well, I came to Phillips Temple actually in the early 80s. The present pastor at that time, now Bishop Graves, asked me to come over and play for 8 o'clock services and also to work with play with the youth choir. And prior to that, I had had an opportunity to, my background was primarily classical music. So I would get calls from Mildred and also from James for Lewis Metropolitan to come and play their cantatas, their Hallelujah chorus and the 7 last words and all of that. So when I get an opportunity to hear this music, to play it, to attempt to master it from an accompaniment perspective, to add a little bit of myself to it so that I wasn't just playing notes, but not add so much to it that I would get moved off the piano, because Mildred had a tendency to move you off the piano if you didn't do correctly. And that included if the beat wasn't right, if the chords weren't right, if the song was completely wrong, she would just move you off. So you learned the discipline, you learned to do what you needed to do in order to not get moved off the instrument, but then also you learned to appreciate that level of discipline for later on when you become managers of music departments. The other thing too was that I would hear in these cantatas, I would hear Edna sing, and I'd also hear Mildred sing. And they had they have these phenomenal soprano voices. And I was an individual who enjoyed singing soprano. I had been singing soprano for many years before actually coming to Phillips Temple. So I would sit and I would study their singing, so that then I would go home and I would sit in the, this is the part that my grandmother never tells them, but I would sit in the bathroom or sit somewhere in the house and just sing their music and try to sing as they had sung. So they have no idea the level of impact that they had on my music making as a musician. Being a part of Phillips Temple, I was able to, even though I physically may not have been in the room, I would still have been a part of Phillips Temple, and I'm still a part of Phillips Temple. So when the time came for me to, well, we actually just, I don't want to leave anything out because this is important. Well, while I was here, we started a young adult choir called the New Revelation Singers. And this group is the feeder group from which you now hear the C.M.E. Community Choir. So that group is formed from the New Revelation Singers, which is the group that was started here at Phillips Temple. Now, also from a historical perspective, because I haven't quite heard these names drop yet, but Phillips Temple's history is so vast and so great, and has had so many wonderful people who have passed by here, people who came and worked in music and then went and formed churches, such as Victory Baptist, of which A.A. Peters was is the pastor. Also, Thurston Frazier was here, and just naming two, that's big deal stuff. That's big deal stuff. That may not be good English, but still you understand the point. And so having those kinds of people to come through really speaks to the kind of legacy and the kind of credibility of the Department of Music and the Department of Ministry that this church employed.